Hello, my name is Jasmine Lee, and I am not your mama's astrologer. Welcome to the week. Listen, we have put in a lot of time, work, energy into figuring out what in the world is going on. And I don't know that we're any closer to the true answer of that. But what I do know is that this week, paths start to form. All these neuro pathways that we have been making and striving for and trying our best to forge is finally gaining some traction. I love that for us. I don't want you to forget that Mercury is still retrograde. It is in Pisces. It is not clear. We got to have a Cazimi over the weekend, so it's almost like we had a little mental break from all of the confusion, from all of the brain fog, from all of the tiredness. Even if we were still tired this weekend, there was a mental clarity that allowed us to participate a little more fully. So that's lovely. Congratulations, us. I hope you had a weekend that had some bright moments, some shiny parts, some glinting, beautiful sparkles that could help you to glean some insights around what's really going on with this Mercury retrograde. That every Mercury retrograde is trying to teach us something. And I'm going to do a separate podcast just on Mercury and Mercury retrograde and why us as astrologers find Mercury retrograde so important, why, the general public demonizes it, why we use it as an excuse. I'm going to talk all things Mercury later this week, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, Mercury's still retrograde, so especially being in Pisces, it's not going to be on its game. But on some level, now that we have acclimated and accustomed to this Mercury retrograde, there's great nuggets of inspiration here that as we're having to slow down our mental processes, maybe take a nap or two, maybe write about it, maybe do art about it, maybe, just maybe, soften a little bit. That's some insight. And maybe not the kind of insight that you're used to. And this is a really good topic for this week, is something that we're not used to. If we take the same way home, if we eat the same thing every week, if we listen to the same sad songs, we are as good as our wrinkles. We are burrowing in that emotion. And the weird thing to me is that our society now is obsessed with covering up wrinkles, obsessed with covering up aging and life, and what the wrinkles, what the lines on our face have to teach us. And I think that this is an interesting segue into this week because we can't always hide from ourselves. And we can't always hide from other people. And it used to be before Botox, before the great notion of covering up how we age. How we feel is written all over our face, in our micro eye movements, our micro mouth movements, are the wrinkles of expression that we make. I couldn't imagine Botoxing my face because it is how I express. And, I'm a really bad liar that way too, because boy, is it always written on my face how I'm really feeling. Maybe I do need Botox. I don't know. But we're living in a society now where we want to cover up what we've done, where there is this litter box notion of covering our shit and making it so that it didn't exist. And I don't know how I feel about that. And I feel like this week doesn't know how it feels about that notion, because this week is a week of traction. This week is a week where all of the neural pathways that we have burrowed into the lines on our face and the routines of our life are up for review. It is time to take the long way home, or the short way, depending on which way you usually take. It is time to try a new spice. It is time to feel comfortable in this vibe of non-clarity. It is time to get cozy with the hanged man, to hang upside down and say, I don't know for how long. I don't know why. And I don't know how I got here in the first place, but here I am. And maybe I should try something new. Maybe I should have a different way of thinking about this. Maybe I should develop a new neural pathway that leads to a heart center inside of myself that is so much more potent than ever before because I'm getting honest. I'm getting real. If there's still a lot that you're not willing or able to get honest and real about, well, this week's gonna hit you pretty hard. Or if you've been wrung out, like a lot of us over the last few weeks, there is a bit more ability to go with this flow because we're more acclimated to it now. And so when we have the opportunity to step back, to become more neutral, to understand that it is our very attachment to these certain outcomes that is what is limiting us, then we really start to open up to what could actually happen inside of us if we didn't have to micromanage it, if we didn't have to control it. I want you to think of all the things that could come true if you didn't have an end game all the time, if you didn't have to get to somewhere specific. Because I'll tell you, a lot of the most beautiful relationships I've heard about, the most incredible job opportunities, the most aha moments, I think Matthew McConaughey called them green light moments, where you're like, oh yes, that's a green light, I'm gonna move through that, comes when you aren't pushing, when you aren't forcing, when you aren't predicting, and when you aren't forcefully moving a chess piece towards an outcome. Because every time you think you got that person checkmated, you're usually the one that's going to get a checkmate because you're missing the point of the process. And there are so many relationships, job opportunities, serendipitous moments that have always come from, it was when I least expected it. It was when I finally stopped pushing so hard. It was when I finally let go. You hear that all the time. So what, my dearest friends, are you holding on to so tight? What is in your grip? And how can you let it go? Because it is the time to let it go. Very Frozen style. Let it go. No, I'm not going to sing. I promise. You're welcome. But really, like, why does it have to be this way? Or why does it have to be that way? Why do we put so much clout, so much stock, so much emphasis on it only matters if it goes my way? I mean, I know why. I know that we all want to be the orchestrators of beautiful fates, but that's not really how the world works. That's not really how happenstance works. That's not really how life lifes us. We have to be willing and able to accept paradox to understand that the universe works in very mysterious ways. And it doesn't matter if you believe in God. It doesn't matter if you believe in Buddha. It doesn't matter if you believe in astrology. It doesn't matter if you believe in nothing at all. The very notion that we're here is a miracle. And if we came from nothing, even more miraculous. And so, this righteous trust that if everything's random anyway, or if nothing is random anyway, doesn't matter what side of the court you're on, life is going to happen. And why on earth must we judge ourselves so harshly on climbing to such great heights of specificity that then we set ourselves up to always feel like we're failing? I mean, listen, I have a high ceiling. I want to do big things in the astrological world, and I want, to do and help and be in so many different ways. But if I micromanage how that's going to happen, then I'm not really open to what could happen, who I could meet, who that one person is that's going to listen to me and change everything. Because at any moment, your life can change. And if you're so busy putting a square peg in a round hole, then you're not going to see all the other ways in which things could fit better, in which you could be actually happier. That maybe getting out of this relationship that you're in with yourself could be the way to shut the door on all of those limiting beliefs. I mean, we're human. We're never going to reach perfection. That's never the goal. And this eclipse season says, stop it. Stop needing it to be something so specific and just start doing some things. Start throwing some things at the wall and see what sticks, because it really is the yes energy that moves the dial. It really is the willingness. It really is the self-belief, and it really is the joy of what it is to be in this human experience that really allows for the next thing to open. That we can't grind to a halt and then expect amazing things to happen. We can't just stay home and expect to meet our soulmate. We can't, want a beautiful astrology career if we're not putting content out. There is a give and a take. And all that's required right now, especially this week, is your optimistic participation. That even in the depths of despair, to trust, and that is the hardest word, isn't it? To trust that there is light on the other side of dark. And then we go back, and then we go back and forth, and then life sucks, and then it's great. But then, oh my goodness, I found the most beautiful purple flower on my walk today. And we had the most amazing, beautiful, sunshiny weekend when it's been so dark and cold. And that really is a sign of the times of this week, that there are flowers everywhere. But are you seeing them? Are you looking? If there isn't a flower, there's a bird, there's a something, there's a messenger telling us that not everything stays underground forever, not all secrets stay kept, and that the blooming, the telling, the revealing quality of our soul's desire can be the very thing that releases us from our own bird cages that were probably left open in the first place. We just forgot. We so often imprison ourselves with our limiting beliefs, with our routine-based thinking, and with our attachments. And so this week is a great week to move some energy. Monday, we start with Venus making a beautiful sextile, which is a good aspect to Pluto, the planet of big, great transformation. And Pluto is usually a very hard planet. When we have Pluto transits, they are hard. They gut us. The thing that we are the most afraid of getting taken is the very thing that gets taken. And it is that beautiful revealing of what happens when it finally happens, when the thing that you were fearing finally happens. Do you deal with it? I mean, yeah, we do. We have to. We don't have a choice. Do we always do it perfectly? No. But do we learn something on the other side of it? Always. If you want to. And that's the deal with astrology. It's the deal with your chart. It's the deal with your fate. It's the deal with your dharma. Whatever you believe in, it's the deal with why you're here. Is it's always a choice. That there are options laid out for us, and some knocks are little and some knocks are huge. And understanding that we are the ones opening or closing our doors. We are the ones opening or closing our hearts. We are the ones making the decision to engage with that person, making the decision to get out of bed that day, making conscious decisions that are leading us towards our unconscious shadow selves. That deep down, we all have a shadow and we all feed it. Yes, we do. But the way to work with our shadow is to have it be front and center, is to move with the horizon, is to, when the light shifts, have it always in our periphery. Right there. Look at my shadow's right behind me right now if you're watching this on video. That our shadow really is our guide. That the things that we are afraid of are really the things that can unlock and unveil us. But so often we just don't want to be unveiled. And Monday, with Venus sextiling Pluto, it's a loving unveiling. It's loving if you're willing. But that's the thing. Astrology, it's always a choice. You can choose to be more vulnerable today. You can choose to see something that transforms you in the most beautiful way today. But you have to choose to see it, because the thing is, where we are putting our attention to is what we're getting more of. If you wake up in the morning and you say, oh, I don't want to get out of bed. Oh, I don't want to do today. Oh, I'm so tired. It is okay to be tired, but how you are speaking to yourself, how you're speaking to your family, how you're starting your day sets you up for then what other energy comes your way, because we are all just energy exchanging all the time. And Venus sextiling Pluto on Monday is this beautiful opportunity to just strip away some of the old stories. Like, okay, your freaking back hurts. What are you gonna do about it? Are you just gonna let it hurt? Are you gonna do some stretches? Maybe a good walk? Maybe book a massage? Take some ibuprofen? I mean, I don't know. I don't know your life. I don't know what's going on with your back. I know sometimes my back wakes up sore, so I use it as an example sometimes. But now I've started doing hot yoga, and I hate hot yoga. I really do. I don't like working out that much, but I do know, and according to my astrology, using my body is therapy. That talk therapy, obviously for this bitch, doesn't work. So body therapy is where I do the most releasing. Do I love it? No. But is it mandatory for my growth? Absolutely. And so I took that message of my back is hurting, and I finally decided to do a little something about it. Do I love it all the time? No. But is it moving the dial? Is it helping my body? Am I learning about where I get stiff and why in my own body, but also in my own spirit? Yeah, it's very revealing. It's been quite the ride. I get so angry when I work out. Yes, I do. And I think that women classically don't have a very good outlet for anger. And so my physical activities are where that comes out a lot. So, wow, yeah. No wonder I don't enjoy it. No wonder I don't find it pleasurable, because I've been holding it in for so long. I bet you if I keep at it, fingers crossed I do, terrible at sticking to things over here, but let's change that story, right? The more I do it, the more releasing I will do, and the easier it will get, and maybe the less I will loathe it. To be continued. So that's Monday. Tuesday, Jupiter goes direct. Jupiter is our lucky planet. Jupiter is our expansive planet. Jupiter is our yes, and it has been retrograde. But now that it's going direct, it's lovely, because now some energy can move. Some, souls can expand. But again, this is a choice. The energy will be there to do it, just like the good choices at the table and the bad choices at the table will be there. And then you get to choose what you're putting in your mouth. You get to choose the thoughts you're going to think, in light of how crazy our world is right now, how unacceptable the behavior is, how we can still engage in these kinds of war tactics when we know that it doesn't help, when we know that it only causes so much disruption in the matrix and in the world around us. And yet we do it. And yet we support it or don't. But then it still happens. It's all just this soulful, generational, situational thing that moves in a circle, and we all have choices. And I think the thing, when the world is in disarray and in disruption, and when things are breaking down and we're having to rebuild in a certain way, that the most important thing to pay attention to are your choices. And it is one of the first things that we teach our little people, is that I see a lot of little people micromanaging each other, being like, she said this, they did that, Mom, Jamie took this, that's my son. And I say, I don't need help parenting. That's not your job. I'll look out for him. You look out for you. And then they get old enough and they look out for themselves. That's the goal. We raise our children to be able to look out for themselves. But then do we do that? No, we do not. We do not look out for ourselves. A lot of times we don't even take accountability for ourselves. We just walk around angry and bewildered at what's happening in the world. And I've got this horrible news flash for all of us, that none of us are innocent parties in where our world is at right now. We are all energetic participants. I don't care how peaceful you think you are. I don't care how evolved you think you are. I don't care how spiritual you are. If you cannot understand that we are a collective, and this is the thing that really gets me about hippie culture, especially sometimes in my hometown, is that the we are one, we are the world, and the goddess inside of us, and the divine feminine, and blah, 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 all this like spiritual bypassing totally deflects and negates the basic idea that we are all one. Yeah, that's true. So the darkness in me, bitch, sees the darkness in you. But if you're not reflecting back, we can't get anywhere. Because I'll tell you something. If we could all just take a little bit of accountability for where we are all at in our lives and started doing, imagine our own work. Imagine if we all did that at the same time, what we could do with this world, how we could improve it, how we could change if we weren't so busy micromanaging the grid, the cosmos, the people around us, our children. It's crazy. We're all so busy outsourcing, resourcing, being busy, being too busy, not making eye contact for God's sakes. We're so busy that we're forgetting the basic notion and quality. And Jupiter going direct this week wants us to expand, wants us to grow, and wants us to move that humanitarian philosophical dial. So get real. And it starts with yourself. Take some accountability. Like, blame yourself for something this week. Not in the, oh, I should have done this. I'm such a bad mom. I don't do enough. Like, not that. I just mean, like, what is the thing that you are feeling the most stuck about in your life? What relationship kind of sucks? What work environment dynamic isn't working? What child-parent relationship isn't working or clicking? And find your peace in that one thing this week. What's one thing that hasn't been working well? And what is your accountability in that? And Jupiter's going to expand it, and Jupiter's going to help you find a solution, but you have to get accountable. That's the deal. And then Wednesday and Thursday, the moon goes into Capricorn. And I tell you, if any of you are interested in astrology, always figure out where the moon is. Start tracking it every single month, because then you'll know what moons you jive with and what ones you don't. And you can honor your life accordingly. A moon in Capricorn is about hard work. It's practical. We're going to be ready to apply some stuff. So I gave you big girl lecture a few moments ago. And maybe it felt triggering, and maybe you didn't like it, and maybe it's confronting, but like, do that, because then with the moon being in Capricorn in the middle of the week, we will be able to turn off the self-defense mechanisms. We'll be able to turn up the accountability dial, and maybe we'll actually be able to make some badass changes. Wouldn't that be a vibe? And then Friday, Mars is going to be conjunct the North Node. So this is vibey. Old wounds come to the surface. So again, how about that? If we're doing our work at the beginning of the week, it'll feel very natural for our old wounds, for our hurt stories to come up and bubble to the surface. But that's good. That means you're doing good. That means you're allowing your traumas and your body to release some of these old stories you've been telling about yourself and about other people and about your dad or about your mom or about your grandpa or about your coworker or whatever. It's like all of this stuff finally starts to come up. And there is a possibility for course correction, because Mars is our warrior and the North Node is our fate, is where we're trying to get to. And in Pisces, we can feel it on such a more intuitional level. And that is amazing. Do you see how this week is shaping up? It's a powerful week to get freaking powerful, to stop being a victim, to stop feeling so completely helpless, because none of us are helpless in this matrix, y'all. None of us. We all have the power. We all have the hand strength to at least pull ourselves up one more inch, to at least stretch ourselves down one more vertebra. We really do have that capability. And it's not about victimizing yourself. It's about empowering yourself. It's about saying, yeah, I have said this horrible thing about myself for years. I don't feel like I could be a good enough astrologer to be truly successful. What a bullshit limiting belief. So we draw it up and you say, how do I take accountability for that? Well, maybe I do that so that I will stay small, so that I don't have to deal with what success could look like, so that I don't have to be honest with how my life would change if everything else changed. Was I not ready? Maybe. Am I still afraid? Yeah, big time. Is it hard to be really authentic all the time and revealing and do this every week and bleed for the page and try to be funny and try to be likable and try to put content out every single day? Yeah. Them's the shits sometimes, but I can take my accountability and say, you play small because you don't like yourself very much. And that's been true almost my whole life. And I have seen relationships end. I have seen my marriage fall apart. I have seen my friendships fall apart. I have seen the biggest fights get started because I don't have the self-confidence to say, I'm just as important and valuable as you. And that's my work, you guys. And it's vulnerable and it sucks and I don't like it and I'm so sick of hating myself. And yet, here I am hating myself. Almost every day, something comes up where I'm judging myself or feeling like a piece of shit or whatever. And that's mine to work out, and it's a choice. I can work with it or against it, and so often I work against it. And I can't tell you how over it I am. And so am I going to victimize myself? Am I going to be like, oh, you poor baby? Hell to the nah. I'm going to dust myself up. I'm going to do this podcast. I'm going to think about this week. I'm going to understand that my warrior planet, that the warrior planet up in the sky, Mars, is conjunct the nodes of fate right now, and that I can make a difference to me. And that's the first place we should all be making a difference. And then we end in the weekend on Sunday with Mercury retrograde being right next to Mars. So we had this Mars being next to the North Node, and now we have Mars being next to Mercury. All of these befuddled thoughts, all of this confusion, all of this fog. And honestly, what came up into my mind was like when we've had a stuffy nose for a really long time. That's what Mercury retrograde feels like. It's a brain stuffy nose for a really long time. And all of a sudden, the fluid starts to drain for a little bit. And you're like, oh, I'm so grateful for this clarity. I'm so grateful for my heart, for my beating heart, for my body, for my own words, for my own feelings, for my own actions. I'm grateful. And now I want to move. I want to move my thoughts. I want to change those neural pathways. Because in Pisces, it is very psychic. It is very other side. It is very, what are you going to do that's inside? It's not external work. Mars would have us say it's an outside job, but it's always, according to Pisces, an inside job. And don't fall asleep at the wheel. Thank you so much for listening. There's so much astrology going on. If you would like to book a reading to find out where all of this is happening in your chart so we can empower you personally, move the dial more specifically, answer the call in a way that resonates on such a much deeper level, well, you book a reading with me. And you do that by going to notyourmamasastrologer.com. You do that by making that inquiry, because it is through self-inquiry that we can find self-mastery. Thank you so much for listening. I'm so grateful that you guys are here in space with me. The card pull for this week is co-create. Ooh, so book a reading with me, obviously, but also co-create. You know, while we're doing all this internal work, while we're doing all of this growing, it's really important to go out there and make art together, to sing together, to see how your relationship dynamics start changing when you start moving your soul dial. Different people are going to be attracted to you. Different scenarios are going to come your way. Different job opportunities, different love interests. Imagine that if you could change your vibrational pull, that then new, amazing things will start coming your way. So we all co-create together. We are one, after all. That's what all of those hippie dynamics would have us believe. But if we're all one, then we start with this one, and that's your one. And then we go from there. And I'll see you next week.